Hello, souls and demons, and welcome to today's gaze into the portal of the mortal realms. Have you ever heard of a glitch in the Matrix? Well, it's this strange thing you mortals get when something strange happens that reminds you that you're not always tied to your realm completely. Unexplainable. To you at least. So sit back, grip your seats, and enjoy. Saved from a swim, but how? I was working at a local amusement park as one of the two attendants at the bumper boat pond. All the boats but one had been unmoored and had moved out of sight from the dock area. I told the kid on the boat to keep his hands away from the motor until I untied him. The rope was pulled taut, so I had to put one foot on the inner tube for leverage to remove it from the cleat. Sure enough, the moment I got the rope free, the little brat gunned the engine and headed off to join his friends. The boat shot out from under my left foot, and I was unfortunately in one of the spots without any handrails within reach. I remember my thoughts at that moment very clearly. After the initial, "oh no" moment, I got seriously angry. Not because I was going into the water. I'd been warned when I got the job that everyone who works there falls in somehow eventually. I was angry because instead of just falling in, I'm fairly tall, so the water would only have come up to about above my waist. I was going in head first, so I'd be completely soaked for most of the rest of the night. Now for the Matrix glitch. At this point, my left leg is already submerged halfway to my knee. My right foot, I believe, was still on the edge of the dock, but I'm falling forward with my face less than a foot from the surface of the water. Less than an eye blink later, I'm somehow standing with both feet on the dock about 4 feet from the pond with my back firmly against the wall. Confusion hits me like a train. And before I can process anything, my coworker and only eyewitness comes running up the docks to me with his eyes wide and wild. He keeps shouting, "How did you do that?" To which I answered, "How did I do what?" He was shaking with excitement, wonder, fear, and just kept repeating his question. I was still trying to figure out why I wasn't underwater at that point. My left leg was still wet almost to the knee, so I know I didn't imagine falling. I tried calming him and myself down to try to figure out what had just occurred. I told him I had no idea what happened, and asked him to give me the details on what he had seen. He became incoherent at that point and just shook his head and muttered. He refused to accept that I didn't know what happened, and seemed to think I was playing some kind of trick on him. That last part is just my interpretation. He never specifically accused me of anything. After that night, we only worked together a few other times before he quit, and he refused to discuss it anymore. There were security cameras at the park, but unfortunately again, none of them were covering that spot. To this day, I am still troubled by the event, and can't think of any reasonable way to explain it. Any rational theories out there?
This happened about a year ago at Bank Underground Station in London. I was on my way home, carrying 2 bags, one in each hand, and I was listening to Stripped by Depeche Mode. Bank Station is an interchange for other lines, and so I was changing for DLR line. And as I was walking up these stairs to get to the other line, just before the stairs, the song I was listening to became very odd. The closest thing I could compare it to would be when the battery in one of those old Walkmans started dying and the sound would become slower and sort of prolonged. The song I was listening to started doing something very similar, and I thought it was really weird because it was my iPhone playing. But because I had my hands full with shopping, I didn't want to stop to look at it, so I kept walking, and about halfway through on the stairs I started feeling very nauseous, and the reality around me sort of rippled. Not visually, it was more of a feeling. Something was very odd. I kept walking up, but I ended up at the bottom of the stairs once I reached the top. The stairs appeared right in front of me again. I was walking up again and ended up once again at the bottom. The third time I walked up, my music started playing normally again and I felt fine. The nausea was completely gone. I stood at the top for a while thinking to myself, what the hell just happened? So I carried on the journey as normal and nothing else had happened afterwards, but I certainly must have gone through some loop.
In my country, a commonly used slang term for the charger cube that comes with most Apple products is Coco, like the movie. It means coconut, but I don't know. My family uses it, and I caught on to it after a few years because they won't understand any other word I use for it. Thing is, for the last month, I've changed rooms because I got sick. Everyone was paranoid that I had COVID-19, and I locked myself up in another room so nobody would bother me. I spent my days gaming and working from home at night. Now that I'm not sick, my sister is using my laptop for her homework. The glitch is this. I have my stuff in order always. I have Asperger's syndrome, so trust me, I don't lose anything. My room is basically empty except for a little sofa I sleep on, a dining room chair I stole, my oakwood desk I bought, my laptop, and a laptop cooler. On the desk, there's a little metallic platform where I keep my coffee container, sugar container, router, headphones for work, gaming, and my damn Coco. I haven't used my iPad in months because I've been playing video games non-stop. I figured I could take a break from reading on there since my sister wouldn't take my laptop anymore for a long while. So today I finally finished Dr. Sleep because she did take it. But my battery drained pretty fast on the iPad. By the end of the day, I started for my Coco on the desk to charge it overnight and off to work, and adventuring on Morrowind. But alas, the Coco wasn't there. I thought nothing of it. Maybe my sisters knocked it off the desk while taking out my router and laptop. I figured the floors, under the desk, under the sofa, under the microwave, I keep it in there, everywhere. Nothing. Finally, I asked my mother, "Hey, do you think Buttery Copsis took my Coco to charge something?" She yells out, "Hey, did you steal his Coco?" I didn't say, "He says you stole it!" Half an hour fighting like idiots because of this false accusation, and I shut myself in my room. Said fuck it. I curse normally, but I'm not sure if it's allowed on the sub. I think to myself, might as well charge it on the computer. I only have 2 ports. Headphones are a must because of my job and the mouse I use for gaming during my shift. So I thought, might as well catch a couple of episodes of my series and then game later. My sister brings over my coffee and sugar for the day. She hands me the objects, nobody enters my room. I walk to where I keep the sugar normally. I pick up the container I have there to replace it with, the new one, and out pops the cube from the old one. It looked like a magic trick. There was no possible way it came out from under because it's a plastic Tupperware the size of a baby's fist. It wasn't inside. It just popped out of thin air. My sister called me a bastard for accusing her, and I ended up like an idiot. Are there any instances of this happening? As in recorded instances that are very well known. My phone falling out of my hand and just disappearing. Never found it again. I'm not sure if this fits here, but I wanted to share the story. So this happened a few years ago. I was sitting at my computer desk and texting with a friend. And because I'm a clumsy fuck, my phone slipped out of my hand, like it had many times before. Only this time I couldn't pick it back up, because it wasn't just gone. When it fell, it sounded like it kind of fell off onto paper, but I don't know why. There wasn't any paper on the floor. I searched and searched, but couldn't find it. My whole family looked for it, but they also couldn't find it. I bet they thought I just wanted a new phone and hid it or something like that. They suggested that maybe I was just so sleep deprived that I fell asleep and dreamed all of that. But I messaged my friend from my laptop right after it happened, and he confirmed that we were texting at the time. This is like one of the biggest mysteries of my life. I have no idea what happened. We all searched thoroughly as well, every nook and cranny there was in that room. But to this day, it hasn't reappeared. I wished for a urinal and ended up in an alternate reality. It was 2019 and I was working a summer job at a local gardening store. I was one of the few women working there and was surprised/annoyed that they didn't have a urinal in our only bathroom. Especially since they were mostly men. I specifically remember there being pee on the seat, having to close the seat, etc., and was not happy about it. I also remember specifically wishing that they would get a urinal. So after a few weeks of working there, I went to the restroom and, lo and behold, there was a urinal. But it wasn't new. It was filthy and the pipes attached to the wall were even rusty. I know there was no urinal before. I know this is such a small thing, but it really fucked me over. And I think about it to this day. And I think I switched to an alternate reality or dimension or something. I was talking with my mom about something, and opened my Instagram to see that someone I follow posted the exact thing I was talking about. Okay, this literally happened like 30 minutes ago. I was in the car with my mom and we were talking about a previous presidential candidate from a few years ago. And talking about how smart he was, how his life story was amazing, and how it's crazy that people don't like him, think he's intelligent. As the conversation ended, I picked up my phone and opened my Instagram. The first image that showed up was a text post saying literally the exact same thing I just said. And it was posted by an account that I follow. It wasn't an ad. If it was about a current politician that lots of people have been talking about, I wouldn't have been so freaked out. But it was crazy because I haven't heard anything about this man for years, and haven't even talked about him in years. What are your thoughts? The world paused and I almost got shot after. This happened about 15 years ago. I woke up that day feeling really odd, and my very good friend back then called me and said she woke up also feeling weird, so I told her just to come over. We couldn't shake this strange feeling off. Something just felt off, but we couldn't put a finger on it. We decided to go out in the evening, and when we were walking through Piccadilly Circus in London, something crazy happened. The closest thing that I can compare it to would be that we ended up in this see-through bubble, and everything around us paused for about 3 seconds and we were, me and her, in some sort of slow motion while we were in that bubble. And then snap, and everything went back to normal, but we just stood there looking at each other completely and utterly freaked out as we both experienced the same thing. We just stood there in shock thinking, what the fuck did just happen? We were so shaken by this that we had one drink in the bar and decided to go home. She went to mine as she didn't want to be alone, so we took the train back, and while we were walking to my house, we heard a gunshot. And that bullet passed by me by an inch and went into a car that was parked next to us on the side of the road. I literally felt it touch my hair while flying past me. There was a guy in the car who got out and started screaming and panicking as the bullet hit the side door of his car, and we stood there petrified thinking, what the fuck is happening today? We then ran off and ran all the way back to my house. The area I used to live back then is one of the safest areas in London. It was by St. Catherine's Docks by Tower Hill, so whoever is from London can relate. Also, gun crime in UK is very rare. Pretty much below zero, so this whole incident just didn't make any sense. I don't know whether it was related to the slow motion thing earlier and the world pausing, but I couldn't help but think to myself that if I had walked there a second earlier, I would have gotten hit by the bullet. The shop has completely changed. I do my nails every 3 weeks in one particular nail salon. Been going there for about 1.5 years since we have moved into the area. There are 3 nail salons around. One is called Hollywood Nails, the other is True Nails, and the third is called Fantasy Nails, and that is the one that I always go to. I know the people working there, and they know me by now as I have been going there for quite some time. So this time I go and get my nails done, walk towards the salon. The sign and the name is the same, but it looks different from the outside. I walked in and it looks completely different. It's about half the size of the original one. They used to have a pedicure chair at the back of the place, which now is not there, and even the people there are completely new, and I don't recognize anybody. I thought, that's weird. Perhaps they had a refurbishment. So I asked at the reception if they could take me, as I always just used to walk in without an appointment. The lady says, yeah, sure, but you have to wait about 10 minutes. So I'm just sitting there looking around and thinking, this is really odd. It's just so completely different and small. Now when it's my turn, I asked the lady doing my nails if they had a refurbishment or bought this place, etc. She gave me a strange look and said no. We have been here for many years. Now I had a strange look and said that it's not possible because I've been coming here for more than a year and it looks completely different, and that the people working here are different too. Now she gives me an even stranger look, as if I was drunk or something, saying, what are you talking about? So I felt awkward and asked whether there's another nail salon, perhaps next door, and she said no. The only one is about 10 minutes walk and it's called Hollywood Nails. The true one is even further down. I kept looking outside and the street angle is exactly the same as in the previous one, and it just doesn't make any sense. I literally walked back and forth a few times after my nails were done, trying to figure it out and find another fantasy nail shop, but this is the only one there. Objects disappearing and appearing and changing completely. I have experienced this phenomenon on probably a weekly basis throughout my life, so I will mention just a few and I'm going to mark them with a dot at the beginning, as they are not just one continuous story, but a bunch of random incidents throughout my life. I bought new Adidas trainers, had them for literally only one day before they had gone into a loop. I took them off after coming home and put them in line with all the other shoes. The next morning they were gone. My husband and I turned the flat upside down, never found them and never seen them again. My other timeline has probably 2 pairs of shoes wondering where they came from. Now this incident happened when my husband was away for a week and I was home all alone. It's Saturday morning. I go to the bathroom after waking up and there's a pregnancy test, open but unused, right next to the toilet on the floor. I have never ever bought a pregnancy test in my life, and there's no way that someone else put it there. As I said, I was home alone for about a week then. Put a whole bunch of laundry in the washing machine, and when taking it out, there's only 1 pair of trousers, so I'm like, what the hell? The whole bunch of dirty laundry is still upstairs in the basket. Had an EHO visit at work. I was a bar manager at the time, and they had required the safety diary, which had always been on the same spot on the same shelf for years. All of a sudden it was gone. Could not find it. Got in shit, obviously, as I was accused of losing it. Spent the whole day looking for it, not just me but 2 other work colleagues. We even looked inside of the fridges like a complete bunch of idiots and nothing. The next day I was first at work. No one was there yet, so I went to my office, replied to some emails, finished my coffee, and decided to have one more. I went to the bar and made myself a coffee, went back to my office, and bingo. There's the safety diary and it's literally laying on the keyboard in front of the PC that I was using. And mind you, there's still no one in the building. I literally thought this must be a fucking joke now. And when I reported this to the main head office, that the diary had literally just appeared on my desk, they thought I was a complete retard, of course. Disorganized and messy. Walking home from work. Cut through the park, there are no trees around, just a long pavement cutting through this meadow, and there's a guy walking towards me about 5 yards away. Now I looked down for a split of a second as I thought my shoelace got undone. Looked back up and the guy was gone, and there was absolutely no way that he could turn or hide. Went for a cigarette outside of our house. I used to leave my lighter, personal one, Zippo, on this rocky fence that was connected to our house. Placed it back there after the smoke and went back in. And my husband literally passed, saying he was going for one too. Now he used to go and smoke about 10 yards down by this canal. When he got back he was like, "You went all the way down to the canal for a smoke?" You always just smoke by the door?" I said, "No, of course not," and he just looked at me raising his eyebrows and said, "Well, I just found your lighter down there. Thought you lost it." My watch had disappeared more than 10 times. I always leave it on my bedside table. Woke up in the morning and the watch is gone. Searched everything, couldn't find it. Texted my husband, he was waking up later. He replied, "What are you talking about? The watch is right there on your bedside table." And sends me a photo. Yep. Exactly where I'd left them the night before. My husband lost a hat. Searched everywhere but couldn't find it. A month later, there appeared to be 2 hats exactly like the ones he had lost. He thought I bought new ones, which I didn't. Had my wallet in my jacket pocket, including my travel card. When I got to the station, the wallet was gone. So I was panicking, turning my pockets inside out, but they were empty. I looked through my handbag but could not find it. Thinking, oh no, what the hell now? Put my hand back in my jacket pocket and the wallet was right there. And it wasn't the size of a peanut that I would miss it. Here I'm going to include my brother's story because I found it very peculiar and he is very skeptical. And it makes me laugh as he is so puzzled by it and thought he was going nuts. He is a guitarist and they have a practice rehearsal room with the band. He went there alone one Sunday to play some riffs and they keep the guitar straps with a few other things in this big black leather box which has a lock on it. He unlocks it, gets the strap out, closes the box, puts the strap on the chair and goes to get his guitar, which is in the corner of the room. Gets back and the strap is gone. He looks for it, but then he's like, I am going nuts. Did I take it out? Unlock the box and it's there. So he's like, what the hell, doesn't pay too much attention to it. Takes it out, puts it on the chair again, and this time goes to turn the amplifiers on. Gets back and the strap is gone again. So he really thinks he's losing it at this point. Unlocks the box again and the strap is inside. He even called my mom as he thought he was going proper bonkers. And the other one is even better. He is a bit of a nerd and spends a lot of time on the PC, and this time he's exchanging the PC cooler system. He bought 2 cables. One end of the cable had 2 pins to go into the PC and the other end had a socket. He tested it before the demolition. I mean before he disassembled the PC and it fit perfectly, and so he proceeded. About 4 to 5 hours later, when he put it all back together with a new cooler, etc., and wanted to plug the cables in, the end with the 2 pins had changed to a socket, so now he had a cable with 2 sockets on both ends. He was so dumbfounded that he even called me saying, what in the actual fuck is going on here? And the other cable had changed too. Both of them had 2 sockets on each end. Complete nonsense. So these are the parallel jumps that we make in between realities, and sometimes they can be a complete and utter nuttiness. Different parallel entities or beings from elsewhere? This happened about 2 years ago in London. It was after 3 a.m. Saturday. We were still up watching a movie with my husband. I went to the garden for a cigarette. I sat there smoking and looked to my left. There was this illuminating thing about 3 feet away from me. So I got up to look at it. It was about half of an inch big, literally in front of my face, about 1 foot away. It looked like, the best I could describe it, a tiny illuminating hair comb. Had a shape of a hair comb and it was illuminating many different colors, running from the top down. Blue, green, yellow, pink. I tilted my head to the side to look at it more, but it had mimicked what I was doing. I was like, what the hell? I tilted my head back straight again and it had done the same thing. Now about a minute later, a second one had appeared next to the first one and these 2 beings were right in front of my face in the line of my eyes. Basically like 2 eyes in front of me. Obviously not a shape of eyes, but you get what I mean. Both had started mimicking everything I was doing, all my moves. So I crouched and it went down with me, still exactly in the line of my face. I stood up and it went with me and I turned my head left, right, tilt my head back and forth, and every time it would mimic everything I was doing. Literally and exactly copying my moves at the same time. Almost like looking in the mirror. I thought it was a form of communication of some sort. I then tried to touch it, and it had this sort of energy field around it. It wouldn't let me touch it directly, but would bounce off my finger. Like a millimeter of the actual thing. It had this sort of protective shield. So I would poke it many times in different directions, and it would bounce up and then come back to its position in front of my face. A few minutes later, 2 had turned up, so now there was 4 of them around me. 2 of those in front of my face started some sort of prolonging its shape into about 1 to 1.5 inches long shapes. Exactly the comb shape as earlier, but now longer. They were both on a vertical line in front of me, about a few inches apart, and again, when I moved, it would mimic my moves both at the same time. Almost like if you imagine eyes in front of you without a face. Moving in a mirror reflection of yourself. I thought this was incredible. And there was this almost insane calmness. I felt this beautiful and pure vibe energy from it, but not of this world, if that makes sense. I also felt it was very intelligent. I took out my phone and tried to take a few photos and also tried to record it, but about 20 seconds in, as if it knew and did not want to be caught on tape, it flew away. Shot right past me. One of them actually makes a move past me, and it's clear in the video. Unfortunately, the quality isn't fantastic and you can only see light, dots, but on some photos there is this illuminating tail, and if one of them looks like a tiny person. When I magnified it afterwards, I was totally gobsmacked. It was changing colors from green to blue and pink and yellow, and the energy was flowing from the top down. It's visible, almost like an illuminating jellyfish without the shape of a jellyfish. It actually didn't have a shape or body at all. Well, sort of, but not a physical body. You could see through it. Clearly it had an intelligence, and it was so calming. Almost like everything around me, the surroundings were just so calm.